Stay down, old man. A boot slammed into the veteran's chest. His body hit the pavement. Blood sprayed from his forehead. Grandpa, a 7-year-old boy threw himself over the fallen man, shielding him with his tiny body. His screams echoed across the parking lot. 4 young men stood over them, laughing, filming, spitting. Look at this, the fossil's got a little bodyguard. The old man's Marine Corps cap floated in a dirty puddle. 50 years of service, 50 years of sacrifice, now soaking in filth while strangers kicked dirt in his face. Stay down where you belong, old man. Nobody helped, nobody moved, nobody came, until the thunder started. Before we continue, where are you watching from? Drop your city in the comments. Subscribe and hit that bell so you don't miss what happens next. Trust me, you're going to want to see how this ends. Grandpa, wake up, please. Please wake up. Walt Henderson heard his grandson's voice like it was coming from underwater, far away, muffled, desperate. He tried to open his eyes. Blood glued his left eyelid shut. I'm here, buddy. His voice came out wrong, wet, weak. I'm here. They hurt you, Grandpa. They hurt you real bad. I know. Why won't anybody help us? Walt didn't have an answer. He'd been asking that question since 1969. 20 minutes earlier. You think Grandma will like purple? Purple what? The tree house? I want to paint it purple. It's her favorite color. Walt glanced at his grandson in the passenger seat, 7 years old, gap-toothed smile, holding a crumpled drawing of a treehouse with a pirate flag on top. This kid was everything. Purple it is, soldier. Really, really, but we gotta keep it secret. It's gonna be a surprise for her birthday. Ethan's face lit up like Christmas morning. I won't tell, I promise. Walt pulled into Harrison's grocery parking lot. His left leg ached. 50 years of carrying shrapnel will do that, but he didn't complain. Never did. Dorothy said he was stubborn. He said he was a Marine, same thing. Okay, buddy, we need sandpaper, wood screws, and can I pick the screws? You know how to pick screws. You taught me last week Phillips head for softwood, flathead for... All right. Walt held up his hands, laughing. You're the expert. They walked into the store hand in hand. Walt moved slow, his cane tapped against the linoleum in a steady rhythm, but Ethan matched his pace without being asked. Good kid. The best kid. They were loading supplies into the truck when the black pickup roared into the lot. Lifted suspension. Chrome exhausts. Music so loud Walt felt it in his chest. 4 young men piled out. Early 20s. Designer clothes. The kind of confidence that comes from never hearing the word no. The leader walked straight toward Walt's truck. Mirrored sunglasses. Smirk that said he owned the world. Hey, Grandpa, you're in my spot. Walt looked around. Empty spaces everywhere. Don't see any reserve signs, son. Did I ask what you see? The kid stepped closer. I said move. We'll be out of your way in just a... Now. Ethan grabbed Walt's hand, squeezed hard. Walt squeezed back. It's okay. I've got this. Son, I don't know who you are, but Tyler Whitmore. The kid spread his arms wide, grinning. My father owns this town, and you're testing my patience. Whitmore. Walt knew that name. Everyone in Cedar Ridge knew that name. Judge Raymond Whitmore. Most powerful man in 3 counties. His son had walked away from 2 DUIs and an assault charge without a scratch. Mr. Whitmore, Walt said carefully, I'm a 74-year-old man with a bad knee and a 7-year-old grandson. We're not looking for trouble. Then you should have moved when I told you. Grandpa, Ethan's voice was small, scared. It's okay, buddy, we're leaving. Walt reached for the truck door. Tyler kicked it shut. The sound cracked across the parking lot like a gunshot. I didn't say you could leave. Walt's heart was pounding now. Not from fear he'd forgotten how to feel fear in a jungle 50 years ago, but from something else. Rage. Cold, quiet, dangerous rage. He looked at Tyler Whitmore, this boy who had never known hunger, never known pain, never known what it meant to watch his friends die in the mud, and he saw everything wrong with the world. But he was 74 years old, bad leg, bad ribs, and Ethan was right there watching. So he swallowed it, like he'd swallowed so much else. What do you want from me? Tyler leaned in close. Alcohol on his breath. Something else too. Pills, maybe. I want you to apologize. For what? For making me wait. For making me come over here. For existing in my parking lot. One of Tyler's friends laughed. Dude, just make him kneel. That'd be hilarious. Yeah. Another one had his phone out already recording. Make the old man kneel. Ethan stepped forward. His small hands balled into fists. Leave my grandpa alone. Tyler looked down at the boy. Something flickered in his eyes, something ugly. Well, little man's got some fight in him. He crouched to Ethan's level. You know what happens to people who talk back to me, kid? Don't. Walt's voice came out hard, marine hard. Don't you talk to him. You got a problem, you deal with me. Tyler stood up slowly. The smirk was gone. Okay, old man, let's deal. He shoved Walt in the chest. Son, for a younger man, it would have been nothing. But Walt wasn't a younger man. His left leg, the one held together with pins and prayers, buckled. His cane clattered away. He reached for the truck, missed, and went down hard. His head hit the pavement. The world went white, then red. Then he heard Ethan screaming, Grandpa, Grandpa, and laughter. So much laughter. Oh my God, did you see that? He just dropped it. Dude, he's bleeding. Get his hat. Get his stupid hat. Walt watched through blurred vision as Tyler picked up his Marine Corps cap, the one his CO had given him in 1971, the one he'd worn to every funeral, every parade, every VA meeting for 50 years, and tossed it into a puddle. Semper Fi, am I right? Tyler said, and his friends howled. Walt tried to get up. His arms shook. His vision swam. Stay down, old man. Tyler planted his foot on Walt's chest and pushed. Stay down where you belong. Ethan threw himself at Tyler, small fists swinging. Get off him! Get off my grandpa! One of Tyler's friends grabbed the boy and shoved him away. Ethan hit the ground hard, skinning his palms on the asphalt. Look, the puppy's got teeth. Should we teach him a lesson too? Nah, man, he's just a kid. So gotta learn sometime. Walt's vision went red. Not from blood, from fury. He grabbed the broken end of his cane, the half still connected to the rubber tip, and swung it at Tyler's leg with everything he had left. It connected with a crack. Tyler screamed. You! Tyler hopped backward, clutching his shin. Did that old man just hit me? Bro, he assaulted you. That's a crime, dude. We should call the cops. Tyler's face twisted. All pretense of amusement was gone now. Just rage. Pure, entitled rage. Hold him down. What? I said, hold him down. Two of Tyler's friends grabbed Walt's arms, pinned him to the hot asphalt. You're gonna regret that, old man. You're gonna... Tyler Whitmore! A woman's voice cut through the case. Sharp. Commanding. Tyler spun around. A middle-aged woman in a grocery store apron stood at the edge of the parking lot, phone in hand, recording. I've got everything on camera. Police are on their way. You boys better run. Tyler's friends dropped Walt's arms. Man, we gotta go. Your dad's gonna flip. Shut up, Tyler pointed at Walt, his finger shaking. This isn't over, old man. You understand me? This is not over. He spat on the ground next to Walt's face. Then they were gone. Tires screeching, engine roaring, gone. Ethan crawled to his grandfather's side. Grandpa, say something. Please. Walt's eyes fluttered open. Blood trickled down his temple. His chest felt like it was on fire, but he saw his grandson's face. Tear-streaked, terrified, but still there, still fighting. Hey, soldier. Grandpa, Ethan collapsed onto him, sobbing. I thought you were dead. I thought you left me. Never. Walt wrapped his arms around the boy, ignoring the screaming pain in his ribs. I'm never gonna leave you. I promised your dad. Remember. I remember. Then trust me, I'm not going anywhere. But even as he said it, Walt knew something had broken. Not his bones, those would heal. Something else, something deeper. His faith, in his neighbors, in his town, in the world he'd fought to protect. That was broken. And he didn't know if it would ever heal. The ambulance came. The paramedics were kind, professional. But Walt saw the way they looked at each other when they thought he wasn't watching. They knew. Everyone knew. Tyler Whitmore. Judge Whitmore's son. Nothing would happen to him. Nothing ever did. Sir, we're going to need to transport you to Cedar Ridge Hospital. You've got a significant head wound and possible rib fractures. I can't afford. Sir, you're a veteran, it's covered, but we need to go now. Ethan wouldn't let go of his hand. The EMTs finally gave up and let him ride along. In the ambulance, the boy sat pressed against his grandfather's side, shaking. Grandpa, yeah, buddy. Why did they hurt you? You didn't do anything wrong. Walt stared at the ceiling of the ambulance. Fluorescent lights, the smell of antiseptic, just like the field hospitals in Vietnam. Some people don't need a reason, Ethan. Some people hurt others because they can, because nobody ever stopped them. That's not fair to some. No, it's not. Someone should stop them. Walt closed his eyes. Yeah, buddy, someone should. Cedar Ridge Hospital, 4:47 p.m. The doctor was young, early 30s maybe. She had kind eyes and steady hands. Mr. Henderson, you have 2 cracked ribs, a mild concussion, and a laceration that's going to need 12 stitches. I want to keep you overnight for observation. That bad? You hit your head on concrete at your age. She caught herself. I just wanted to be careful. At my age, right. Dorothy had arrived 20 minutes ago. She sat beside his bed, holding his hand, her face a mask of controlled fury. She hadn't cried yet. Dorothy Henderson didn't cry. She got even. The sheriff called, she said quietly. He's on his way. Don't bother. Walt, I know how this ends, Dot. Whitmore's kid. Nothing's going to happen. You don't know that. Yeah, I do. Sheriff Dan Cooper arrived at 6:15 p.m. He stood at the foot of Walt's bed, hat in hands, looking everywhere except Walt's face. I heard what happened. I'm sorry, Walt. Are you going to arrest them? Silence. Sheriff, I asked you a question. Cooper sighed. It's complicated. Help it out. There's no clear video. The witness, the woman from the grocery store, says her footage is unusable. Bad angle. Faces aren't visible. Dorothy leaned forward. There were 4 of them. They bragged about who they were. Tyler Whitmore announced his own name. I understand that, Mrs. Henderson, but without physical evidence. My husband is the physical evidence. Look at his face. I know, and Cooper held up his hands. But Tyler's already got a story. Says your husband attacked him first. Says he was defending himself. Walt laughed. It hurt his ribs, but he couldn't stop. Defending himself, a 22-year-old athlete, against a 74-year-old man with a cane. That's his story. And you believe him? Cooper didn't answer. Get out. Walt, I said get out. Walt's voice was quiet, dangerous. I've been shot at by the Viet Cong. I've held dying men in my arms. I've spent 50 years serving this country. And you're standing there telling me that the men who attack me in front of my grandson are going to walk because their daddy has money. It's not that simple. Yes, it is. Walt met the sheriff's eyes. It's exactly that simple, and you know it. Now get out of my room, and don't you ever call yourself a lone man again. Cooper left without another word. Dorothy watched him go. I'm calling our lawyer. Won't matter. Walt, the Whitmores own the lawyers too. The judges, the newspapers. They own this whole damn town. He stared at the ceiling. We're alone on this one dot, just like always. Ethan stirred in the chair by the window. He'd fallen asleep exhausted from crying. Walt looked at his grandson, this boy who had already lost so much. His parents, his innocence, and now his faith that the world was fair. What do we do, Walt? Dorothy's voice was barely a whisper. I don't know, Dot. He closed his eyes. I honestly don't know. Iron Thunder Garage, 7:23 p.m. Marcus Reaper Stone was elbow deep in a Harley engine when his phone rang. He didn't recognize the number. Almost didn't answer, but something made him pick up. Yeah. Is this Marcus Stone? They call you Reaper? Who's asking? My name is Dorothy Henderson. You don't know me, but my husband is a Marine, Vietnam, and he needs help. Reaper straightened up, wiped his hands on a rag. I'm listening. Dorothy told him everything. The parking lot, Tyler Whitmore, the attack, the sheriff's visit, all of it. When she finished, Reaper was silent for a long moment. How bad is he hurt? 2 cracked ribs, concussion, 12 stitches. He's 74 years old, Mr. Stone. He's not going to recover from this easily. And the grandson, Ethan's. He's traumatized. He won't leave his grandfather's side. He keeps saying he couldn't protect him. Dorothy's voice cracked for the first time. He's 7 years old. He shouldn't have to carry that. Reaper closed his eyes. He thought about his own grandfather, Korea. Never talked about what he saw, died alone in a VA hospital while the government debated his benefits. He thought about the men he'd served with in Afghanistan, the ones who came home broken, the ones who didn't come home at all. He thought about what it meant to be a Marine, to serve, to sacrifice, to be forgotten. Mrs. Henderson. Yes? Where are you right now? Cedar Ridge Hospital, room 302. Stay there, don't go anywhere. What are you going to do? Reaper walked outside. 12 of his brothers were working on their bikes, shooting the breeze, enjoying the cool evening air. We're going to make this right, ma'am. You have my word. He hung up. Brothers? 12 heads turned. We got a situation. Within 2 hours, the calls had gone out. Reaper's network was vast. Veterans from 4 wars, bikers from 3 states. Men and women who had answered the call when their country needed them and who still answered when their brothers needed them. Marine down in Cedar Ridge, Vietnam vet, attacked by some rich punk. System won't touch him. Every response was the same. Where and when? I'm in. Rolling now. By midnight, 47 motorcycles were converging on Cedar Ridge, Montana. Cedar Ridge Hospital, 6:07 a.m. Walt woke to thunder. No, not thunder. Engines. Dorothy! His wife was at the window, her hand pressed to her chest. Walt, come look at this. He tried to sit up, groaned, everything hurt. Dorothy, what? Just look. He struggled out of bed, grabbed his IV pole, and shuffled to the window. What he saw took his breath away. Motorcycles, dozens of them, filling the parking lot like an army of chrome and leather. Their engines roared in perfect unison, shaking the glass. What? Who are they? Dorothy turned to him. Her eyes were wet. They're here for you, adult. Ethan woke up. Grandpa, what is that sound? Walt lifted the boy onto his hip, ignoring the pain. Look outside, buddy. Ethan looked. His eyes went wide. Are those the good guys? Walt watched as the riders dismounted. Leather vests, military patches, faces that had seen war and come out the other side. At their head was a tall man with gray at his temples and eyes like steel. He looked up at the hospital windows, and he nodded. Yeah, buddy. Walt's voice was barely a whisper. I think they are. Yeah. The receptionist was on the phone before the first boot hit the linoleum. Security, I need security in the lobby. There's a Reaper walk past her like she wasn't there. 46 bikers followed. The head of security, a retired cop named Mullins, stepped into their path. Gentlemen, ladies, I'm going to need you to. Reaper stopped, pulled out his military ID. Marcus Stone, Marine Corps, 3 tours Afghanistan. I'm here to see a brother. Mullins looked at the ID, looked at the crowd behind Reaper, looked at the patches on their vests, Marine Corps, Army, Navy, Air Force, Purple Hearts, Bronze Stars, Silver Stars. He stepped aside. Room 302, 3rd floor. Thank you for your service. Mullins blinked. You too. The door opened. Walt stood by the window, Ethan in his arms, Dorothy at his side. Reaper filled the doorway. Mr. Henderson. That's me. Reaper crossed the room, stopped at Walt's bedside, and then he did something no one expected. He dropped to one knee. Sir, my name is Marcus Stone. They call me Reaper. I served 3 tours in Afghanistan, Marine Corps like you. Walt stared at him. Son, you don't have to. With respect, sir. Yes, I do. Reaper looked up. I heard what happened to you yesterday. I heard how those boys treated you. I heard what the sheriff said. Word travels fast. Word always travels when a brother's down. Reaper stood. Sir, I'm here to tell you you're not alone anymore. You were never alone. Every man who ever wore the uniform is your brother. And when a brother falls, we ride. Walt's jaw tightened. His eyes glistened. I can't ask you to get involved in this. The Whitmores, they're powerful. They'll come after you too. Let them come. You don't understand. They own this town. The judges, the police, the newspapers, everything. Reaper smiled. It wasn't a friendly smile. Sir, with respect, they've never dealt with us. Ethan tugged on Reaper's vest. Mr. Reaper knelt down. Hey, little man. What's your name? Ethan. Ethan. Good name. Strong name. He looked the boy in the eye. I heard you tried to protect your grandpa yesterday. Ethan's chin quivered. I tried, but I couldn't. They were too big. Let me tell you something, Ethan. Reaper's voice was gentle. Being brave doesn't mean being big. Being brave means standing up even when you're scared, even when you know you might lose. You stood up to those men. That makes you braver than most adults I know. Really? Really. And you know what else? What's your station? You're not alone anymore, either, you or your grandpa. From now on, you've got 47 uncles looking out for you, 47 warriors who've got your back. How does that sound? For the first time since the attack, Ethan smiled. That sounds good. Yeah. Reaper ruffled his hair. It does. Dorothy pulled Reaper aside. What are you planning to do? Whatever we have to, ma'am. The sheriff won't help. He's scared of the Whitmores. We're not. Tyler's father is a judge. He's connected. He'll... Mrs. Henderson. Reaper met her eyes. I've faced down Taliban fighters in caves. I've survived IEDs and ambushes and things I can't talk about. A small-town judge with an attitude problem doesn't scare me. And if he tries to destroy you, then we'll make sure the whole world is watching when he does. Outside, the bikers had set up a perimeter. 6 inside the hospital. 6 outside Walt's door. The rest in the parking lot rotating shifts, visible to everyone who passed by. They weren't doing anything illegal, just existing, loudly, publicly, unavoidably. By noon, the local news had shown up. By 2 o'clock, the story was on social media. By 4 o'clock, it was trending. Bikers stand guard for attacked veteran. Hellsangels descend on small town. Vietnam vet beaten in parking lot, motorcycle club responds. Whitmore Estate, 4:47 p.m. Judge Raymond Whitmore was on his 4th whiskey when his phone rang again. What? Sir, it's Patterson, your media consultant. We've got a problem. I know we've got a problem. I've got 40 motorcycles parked outside my house. Sir, it's worse than that. The story's gone national. CNN just picked it up, and, sir, they've got video. Whitmore's blood ran cold. What video? Someone across the street from the grocery store. They were filming their kids. They caught the whole thing. The attack, Tyler's face, everything. Silence. Sir, are you there? Whitmore hurled his whiskey glass against the wall. Get my son, now. But Tyler was in his room pacing. Dad, I can explain. Sit down. Tyler sat. Do you have any idea what you've done? Whitmore's voice was ice. Do you have any comprehension of the damage you've caused? Dad, he hit me first. There's video, Tyler. Whitmore slammed his fist on the desk. Video of you shoving a 74-year-old veteran to the ground. Video of you standing on his chest. Video of you throwing his hat in a puddle while his grandson screamed. Tyler's face went pale. I didn't know anyone was... You didn't think, you never think. Whitmore ran his hands through his hair. I have spent 30 years building this family's reputation, 30 years of political capital, 30 years of carefully constructed power, and you just destroyed it in 30 seconds. Dad, I'm sorry. Sorry doesn't fix this. Sorry doesn't make those bikers go away. Sorry doesn't unring this bell. Tyler had never seen his father like this. Raymond Whitmore was always calm, always controlled, always 10 steps ahead. Now he looked like a man watching his empire crumble. What do we do? Whitmore stared at his son for a long moment. I don't know. His voice was hollow. For the first time in my life, Tyler, I genuinely don't know. Back at the hospital, Reaper sat beside Walt's bed. Night had fallen. Dorothy had gone to the cafeteria. Ethan was asleep in a chair wrapped in a blanket one of the bikers had brought. You didn't have to do this, Walt said quietly. Yeah, we did. I'm a stranger. You don't owe me anything. Reaper was quiet for a moment. I was 22 the first time I watched a brother die, he said. Fallujah, IED took out our Humvee. My best friend guy named Jackson, he was in the seat next to me. He didn't make it. Walt said nothing. He understood. When I came home, I was lost. Couldn't sleep, couldn't connect. My wife left. My family didn't get it. I thought about ending it more times than I can count. What stopped you? My brothers, the club, men who'd been where I'd been, who understood. Reaper looked at Walt. They saved my life, and they taught me something. What's that? That the war doesn't end when you come home. It just changes. And the only way to survive it is together. Walt felt something shift in his chest, something he'd thought was dead. Hope. You remind me of my son, he said quietly. James, he died 2 years ago. Car accident. I'm sorry. He was a good man, the best man I ever knew. He would have liked you. Reaper smiled. I bet I would have liked him too. Silence. Then what's the plan with the Whitmores? We find the truth, we share it, we make sure the whole world sees what kind of people they are. Reaper leaned forward. And then we let the court of public opinion do what the legal courts won't. You think it'll work. I think people are hungry for justice. Real justice, not the kind that gets bought and sold. He stood. You get some sleep, sir. Tomorrow's going to be a long day. You don't have to call me, sir. Yeah, Reaper smiled. I do. Sam. Outside the window, 47 engines rumbled in the darkness. Standing guard, keeping watch, waiting. Inside, Ethan stirred in his sleep. Grandpa, I'm here, buddy. The motorcycle men, they're still there. Walt looked out the window, at the sea of chrome and leather, at the men and women who had come from across the state to stand with a stranger. Yeah, buddy, they're still there. Good. Ethan settled back into his blanket. Then nobody can hurt us. Walt watched his grandson drift back to sleep. And for the first time in years, he let himself believe that might be true. The morning sun cut through the hospital blinds like a blade. Walt hadn't slept. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Tyler Whitmore's face. That smirk, that arrogance, that absolute certainty that he could do whatever he wanted without consequences. You should eat something. Dorothy stood beside his bed holding a tray from the cafeteria. Her eyes were red from crying, but her jaw was set. That was his Dorothy, soft on the outside, steel underneath. Not hungry. I don't care. Eat. Dot. Walter James Henderson, you listen to me. She set the tray down hard enough to rattle the dishes. You're not dying on me because you're too stubborn to eat breakfast. I've put up with your nonsense for 52 years. I'm not stopping now. Walt looked at her. This woman who had waited for him through Vietnam, who had held him through the nightmares, who had buried their son and still found the strength to get up every morning. He picked up the fork. That's better. Dorothy sat down beside him, her hand finding his. The doctor says you can go home today, if you want. I want. Walt, those men, the bikers, they're still outside. I know. They've been there all night. They won't leave. Walt looked toward the window. Even from here, he could hear the low rumble of engines, the occasional laugh, the clink of coffee cups. They're good men, Dot. They're strangers. They're brothers. He squeezed her hand. It's different. Dorothy was quiet for a moment. Then what happens now? Walt didn't have an answer. The door opened before he could think of one. Reaper walked in, followed by 2 of his men. His face was grim. We need to talk. Walt sat up straight to her. Man, what is it? The video, the one from across the street. Reaper pulled out his phone. It's gone viral. What do you mean viral? I mean 2 million views and counting. Every major news outlet in the country has picked it up. Reaper held up the phone. You're famous, sir. Walt stared at the screen. There it was, the parking lot, Tyler shoving him, his head hitting the pavement, Ethan throwing himself at the attackers. All of it captured in a crystal clear detail. Who posted this? We don't know yet. Someone anonymous. But it doesn't matter. The whole world's watching now. Dorothy grabbed Walt's arm. What does this mean? Reaper smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. It means Judge Whitmore can't bury this anymore. Across town, that same video was playing on a 60-inch television in Raymond Whitmore's study. The judge stood frozen, watching his son shove an elderly man to the ground. Watching him stand on the man's chest, watching him throw the veteran's bay into a puddle while a 7-year-old screamed, "Turn it off!" His assistant fumbled with the remote. The screen went dark. "How bad is it?" "Bad, sir. Every network is running the story. CNN, Fox, MSNBC, they're all calling for a statement. And Tyler, he's upstairs. He won't come out of his room." Whitmore closed his eyes. 30 years. 30 years of building this family's reputation. 30 years of carefully cultivated power. And his son had destroyed it all in 30 seconds. "Get him down here. Now." "Sir, I said now." The assistant fled. Whitmore poured himself a whiskey. His hands were shaking. He couldn't remember the last time his hands had shaken. His phone buzzed. The governor. He declined the call. It buzzed again. The state attorney general. He declined that one too. Then a text from a number he didn't recognize. "Judge Whitmore, we need to talk. Alone, tonight. The old mill on Route 7, 9 p.m. Come alone or don't come at all." No signature, no explanation. Whitmore stared at the message for a long moment. Then he poured another whiskey. Back at the hospital, Walt was getting dressed when Ethan woke up. "Grandpa." "Hey, buddy, how'd you sleep?" "Okay, I guess." The boy rubbed his eyes. "Are we going home?" "We are. Doctor says I'm all fixed up." "You don't look fixed up." Ethan stared at the bandage on Walt's forehead. "You still have an owie." "It's just a scratch, soldier. I've had worse." In the war. In the war. Ethan was quiet for a moment. Then, "Grandpa, are those men still here, the motorcycle men?" "They are." "Why?" Walt knelt down slowly, painfully, until he was eye level with his grandson. "Because they're good men, Ethan, and good men look out for each other. Like you looked out for me, exactly like that. And like I tried to look out for you." Walt's heart clenched. This boy, this beautiful, brave, broken boy. Exactly like that, buddy. Exactly like that. The door opened. Reaper stuck his head in. "Sir, we're ready when you are. We're going to escort you home." "Escort?" "Full convoy, 47 bikes. Nobody's going to bother you on the road." Dorothy stepped forward. "Is that really necessary?" "Ma'am, we don't know what the Whitmores might do. They're cornered. Desperate, desperate people do desperate things." Reaper's eyes hardened. "We're not taking any chances." Walt looked at his wife, at his grandson, at the man standing in the doorway. "All right," he said quietly. "Let's go home." And the convoy was something Cedar Ridge had never seen before. 47 motorcycles' engines thundering in unison, escorting a battered Chevy truck through the center of town. People lined the streets watching. Some waved, some cheered, some just stared open-mouthed at the river of chrome and leather. Ethan pressed his face against the truck window. "Grandpa, look, everyone's watching." "I see, buddy. Are they watching because of us?" Walt didn't know how to answer that. He'd spent his whole life trying to be invisible, trying to just get by, trying to forget the things he'd seen and done. And now suddenly everyone was looking at him. "They're watching because of what happened," Dorothy said carefully. "Because people are angry about what those boys did." "Are they going to get in trouble?" "I hope so, sweetheart. I really hope so." The convoy turned onto Oak Street. Walt's house came into view, a small weathered bungalow with a flag flying from the porch. But something was different. There were people on the lawn, dozens of them, holding signs, holding flowers. "What the?" Walt squinted through the windshield. "Thank you for your service." Justice for Walt. Veterans stand together. His throat tightened. "Dot, are you seeing this?" Dorothy was crying again, but this time she was smiling too. "I'm seeing it, Walt. I'm seeing it." The truck stopped. Reaper was at the door before Walt could open it himself. "Sir, there's a lot of people here. You don't have to talk to them if you don't want to." "Who are they?" "Veterans mostly. From the VA, from the VFW. Word got out. They came to show their support." Walt stared at the crowd. Men and women of all ages, some in wheelchairs, some missing limbs, all of them wearing the same look of fierce solidarity. "They came for me. They came for all of us, sir. You're not just you anymore. You're a symbol." "I don't want to be a symbol." "I know." Reaper's voice softened. But sometimes we don't get to choose. Walt took a deep breath. Then he opened the door. The crowd erupted. Welcome home, Marine. Semper Fi, brother. We've got your back. Walt stood there overwhelmed. His legs were shaking. His eyes were wet. A man in a wheelchair rolled forward. He was older than Walt, with a Korea veteran cap and a chest full of medals. Walter Henderson. That's me. The man extended his hand. Howard Chen, Korea, 1952. I just wanted to shake your hand and tell you what you did standing up to those boys that took guts. Real guts. I didn't do anything special. You didn't back down. That's special. Howard's grip was surprisingly strong, and now we're not backing down either. Walt looked at the crowd, at the signs, at the faces. I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything. Howard smiled. Just let us do the talking for a while. Inside the house, Dorothy was making coffee for what seemed like the entire county. Veterans streamed in and out, shaking Walt's hand, patting his shoulder, telling him their stories. Some had been attacked themselves. Some had been ignored. All of them knew what it felt like to be forgotten. Ethan sat on the couch surrounded by men and women who treated him like a hero. You stood up to those bullies, yeah. How old are you? 7. 7? A woman with a Navy tattoo laughed. Kid, you've got more courage than most adults I know. Ethan grinning. That's what Mr. Reaper said. Mr. Reaper's right. Outside, Reaper was on his phone. Talk to me. We found the original uploader, said the voice on the other end. A man named Diesel, one of Reaper's most trusted brothers. Kid named Marcus Thompson. He was across the street filming his little sister's birthday party. Caught the whole thing by accident. Where is he now? At home. His parents are scared. The Whitmores already tried to contact them. Tried how? Lawyer showed up at their door this morning, offered them $50,000 to take the video down and sign an NDA. And they told him to go to hell. Reaper smiled. Good people. There's more. The kid Marcus, he's got the original file. Full resolution, timestamps, everything. And he's willing to testify if it goes to court. Make sure he stays safe. Put 2 brothers on his house. Already done. Reaper hung up and looked at the crowd on the lawn. Veterans, families, ordinary people who had seen an injustice and decided to stand. This was bigger than Tyler Whitmore now. This was bigger than Cedar Ridge. This was about what kind of country they wanted to live in. His phone buzzed again. A text from an unknown number. Mr. Stone, this is Raymond Whitmore. We should talk. Meet me at the old mill on Route 7, 9 p.m. tonight. I'll come alone if you will. Reaper stared at the message. Then he walked inside to find Walt. Walt was in the kitchen staring out the window at the crowd on his lawn. Mr. Henderson, we need to talk. What is it? Reaper showed him the text. Walt read it twice. He wants to meet. Looks like it. Could be a trap. Could be. Reaper pocketed his phone. But I don't think so. His world is falling apart. He's looking for a way out. What kind of way out? That's what I intend to find out. Dorothy appeared in the doorway. You're not going alone. Ma'am, don't ma'am mate go. Her eyes flashed. My husband is lying in bed with cracked ribs because of these people. If you're going to meet with them, you're taking backup. Reaper looked at Walt. Walt shrugged. She's right, you shouldn't go alone. I wasn't planning to, Reaper smiled, but I appreciate the concern. At 8:45 p.m., Reaper pulled his motorcycle up to the old mill on Route 7. It was abandoned, had been for 20 years, a rusting skeleton of a building that sat on the edge of town like a forgotten memory, the perfect place for a secret meeting. A black Mercedes was already parked outside. One occupant, just as promised. Reaper killed his engine. In the trees behind him, invisible in the darkness, 6 of his brothers waited with weapons drawn. Just in case. He walked toward the car. The door opened. Judge Raymond Whitmore stepped out. He looked older than Reaper expected. Smaller. The television cameras added pounds and authority. In person, he was just a tired old man in an expensive suit. Mr. Stone, Judge Whitmore, thank you for coming. Didn't have much choice, did I? Whitmore almost smiled. No, I suppose you didn't? They stood there for a moment, 2 men sizing each other up. Why am I here, Judge? Because I need to understand something. Whitmore's voice was steady, but his eyes were desperate. Who are you? Where did you come from? Why do you care about this old man? He's a Marine. So are thousands of people. You don't show up for all of them. We do when we can. Whitmore shook his head. That's not good enough. There's something else. Something personal. Reaper was quiet for a long moment. My grandfather, he said finally, Korea, Purple Heart, Bronze Star, saved 6 men in a firefight outside Seoul. I don't see. He came home a hero. 20 years later, he was living in a trailer park eating cat food because his pension wasn't enough. When he got sick, the VA made him wait 8 months for an appointment. He died in a hallway alone waiting to see a doctor. Whitmore said nothing. That's why I'm here, Judge, because I watched my grandfather die forgotten, and I swore I would never let that happen to another veteran. Not on my watch. And you think destroying my son is going to honor your grandfather's memory? I think your son made his own choices. I think he attacked an old man in front of a child. I think he laughed while a hero bled. Reaper's voice hardened. And I think you've spent your whole life protecting him from the consequences of those choices. He's my son. And Walt Henderson is someone's father, someone's grandfather, someone's husband. Reaper stepped closer. Your son didn't just hurt a man, Judge. He hurt a family. He hurt a community. He hurt every veteran who ever put on a uniform. What do you want? Justice. Define justice. Your son pleads guilty, publicly, on camera. He serves real-time, not country club, probation. And you donate $1 million to veteran causes. Whitmore laughed. It was a hollow, bitter sound. That's extortion. That's accountability, something your family's never understood. And if I refuse, Reaper smiled, it was cold. Then we go to war, Judge. And I promise you, you've never fought an enemy like us. Whitmore stared at him for a long moment. You think you can win against me? I have lawyers, judges, politicians. I have resources you can't imagine. You have money. We have something better. What? The truth, and 40 million people who've seen it. Whitmore's face went pale. You're bluffing. Am I? Reaper pulled out his phone. 42 million views, Judge, as of 10 minutes ago. The comments are educational. Would you like to read some? That's enough. Is it? Because I've got reporters from CNN and Fox waiting for my call. I've got senators who want to make a statement. I've got veterans groups organizing protests in 12 states. He stepped even closer. You want to talk about resources? Judge, I've got the entire country watching. Whitmore's hands were shaking again. What you're asking, it would destroy my son. Your son destroyed himself. We're just making sure the world knows it. Silence. Then quietly, I need time. You have 24 hours. That's not enough. 24 hours, Judge. After that, we go public with everything. Every DUI you covered up. Every assault charge you buried. Every victim who was paid to stay quiet. Reaper's voice dropped to a whisper. We know about all of it, and so will everyone else. Whitmore looked like he'd been punched. How? You'd be amazed what people will tell you when they think someone's finally listening. Reaper turned and walked back to his motorcycle. 24 hours, Judge. Choose wisely. He kicked the engine to life and roared off into the darkness. Behind him, Raymond Whitmore stood alone in the empty parking lot, staring at the ruins of everything he'd built. Back at the Henderson house, Walt was waiting on the porch. Reaper pulled up, killed the engine. How'd it go? He's scared. Reaper dismounted. First time in his life, probably. Think he'll take the deal? I don't know. He's cornered. Desperate. Reaper looked at the old man. Desperate people do desperate things. That's what you said before. It's still true. Walt was quiet for a moment. You threatened him, didn't you? I told him the truth. He took it as a threat. Same thing. Reaper almost smiled. Yeah, I guess it is. Dorothy appeared in the doorway. Hey, you boys want some coffee? Ma'am, I'd love some. They went inside. The house was quiet now the veterans had gone home, promising to return tomorrow. Ethan was asleep upstairs, exhausted from the day's excitement. Walt sat heavily in his armchair. His ribs were screaming. Tell me something, Marcus. Anything. What happens if he doesn't take the deal? Reaper set down his coffee cup. Then we destroy him. How? Everything I told him was true. We've got witnesses, victims, people he's paid off over the years, all of them willing to talk. Reaper's jaw tightened. Judge Whitmore isn't just corrupt. He's a predator. And predators don't stop until someone stops them. And you're the one to stop them. We are. All of us. Reaper looked at Walt. This isn't just about you anymore, sir. It's about everyone he's ever hurt. Everyone he's ever silenced. You're just the first one who had someone willing to fight for them. Walt stared into his coffee. I never asked for this. No, you didn't, but it found you anyway. Reaper leaned forward. The question is, what are you going to do with it? Before Walt could answer, his phone buzzed. Unknown number. He answered cautiously. Hello, Mr. Henderson. A woman's voice. Young, nervous. Who is this? My name is Sarah. Sarah Mitchell. I was Tyler Whitmore's girlfriend 3 years ago. Walt's blood went cold. What do you want? I saw the video, what he did to you, and Her voice cracked. I have to tell someone what he did to me. Reaper was on his feet. Put it on speaker. Walt did. Sarah, this is Marcus Stone. I'm a friend of Mr. Henderson's. What did Tyler do to you? Silence, then quietly, he hurt me badly. And his father paid my family to keep quiet. How much? $200,000. We had to sign papers. I wasn't supposed to talk about it, ever. But you're talking now. Because I'm tired of being afraid. Her voice strengthened. I'm tired of watching him hurt people and get away with it. I'm tired of pretending it never happened. Reaper and Walt exchanged glances. Sarah, are you somewhere safe? I'm at my apartment, alone. Stay there. Lock your doors. We're going to send someone to you. Who? People who can help. People who won't let the Whitmores silence you again. Silence. Thank you, she whispered. Thank you for believing me. The line went dead. Walt set down his phone, Masia. His hands were trembling. How many, Marcus? How many people has he hurt? Reaper's jaw was tight. I don't know, but we're about to find out. The next morning, Judge Whitmore woke to find his face on every news channel in America. Whitmore scandal deepens, new accusations emerge. Multiple victims come forward against Judge's son. Biker club uncovers pattern of abuse and cover-ups. His phone was ringing. It hadn't stopped ringing since 6 a.m. Sir, it's Patterson. We have a problem. I can see that. 3 more women have come forward, and 2 men, all with similar stories, all claiming payoffs, all with documentation. Whitmore's blood turned to ice. That's impossible. Those agreements were airtight. Apparently not, sir. The bikers have lawyers too. Good ones. They've been working all night. Who's paying for this? Anonymous donors, veterans groups. Someone started a GoFundMe. It's raised $500,000 in 12 hours. Whitmore closed his eyes. Where's my son? That's the other problem, sir. He's gone. What do you mean gone? His car is missing. His phone is off. No one's seen him since last night. The judge's hands were shaking so badly he could barely hold the phone. Find him. Find him now. At the Henderson house, the phone was ringing too. Walt answered. Hello. Mr. Henderson, this is Detective Maria Santos, State Police. I need to ask you some questions about Tyler Whitmore. What about him? He's missing, sir, and given the circumstances, we're treating this as a high-priority case. Walt looked at Reaper, who was listening intently. Missing since when? Last night, his father reported it this morning. And you think I had something to do with it? No, sir, but you're the last person he threatened publicly. We need to know if he contacted you, if anyone on his behalf contacted you. He didn't. Are you certain, Detective? I've been surrounded by 47 bikers for the past 3 days. If Tyler Whitmore had come anywhere near me, you'd know about it. Silence on the other end. Fair point, sir, but I'm going to need to speak with your friends as well. They'll cooperate. They've got nothing to hide. I hope that's true, Mr. Henderson, for everyone's sake. The line went dead. Reaper was already on his phone. Diesel, get everyone together. The kids run. We need to find him before someone else does. You think he'll hurt himself? I think he's a coward, and cowards do stupid things when they're cornered. Walt grabbed his arm. Marcus, if something happens to that boy, it won't. You can't promise that. Reaper looked at the old man, at the bruises still visible on his face, at the pain still visible in his eyes. No, he admitted. I can't, but I can promise we'll try. That's not good enough. It's all I've got, sir. Walt held his gaze for a long moment. Then make it enough. Reaper nodded once. Then he walked out the door into the morning light where 47 engines waited to hunt down a ghost. Somewhere in the mountains above Cedar Ridge, Tyler Whitmore sat in his car staring at the cliff's edge. His phone was off, his wallet was empty, his whole life was over. The video had destroyed everything. The accusations had made it worse. And now his father, the one person who had always protected him, couldn't save him anymore. He thought about his mother, dead since he was 12. She'd been the only one who ever really loved him. The only one who ever saw past the money, the privilege, the name. What would she think of him now? What would she say if she could see what he'd become? Tyler stared at the steering wheel. His hands were shaking. He'd never faced consequences. Not once in his entire life. Every mistake had been erased. Every crime had been buried. He'd never learned that actions had prices. And now the bill had come due. He thought about the old man, the veteran. The way he looked at Tyler, not with fear, but with pity. Like he was looking at something broken. Something that could have been fixed if someone had just tried. Nobody had ever tried. His father had given him money instead of discipline, lawyers instead of lessons. He'd taught him that power meant never having to say sorry. He'd been wrong. Tyler pulled out the gun from his glove compartment. It was his father's, a gift for his 18th birthday. He'd never fired it. He stared at it for a long time. Then he thought about the little boy, the one who'd thrown himself at Tyler's friends trying to protect his grandfather. 7 years old, braver than Tyler had ever been. If a 7-year-old could face his fears, Tyler put the gun down. He picked up his phone, he turned it on, and he dialed the one number he never thought he'd call. 911. What's your emergency? My name is Tyler Whitmore. I want to turn myself in. The 911 operator's voice crackled through the phone. Sir, can you repeat that? My name is Tyler Whitmore. I want to turn myself in. Turn yourself in for what, sir? Tyler stared at the gun on the passenger seat, at the cliff edge beyond his windshield, at everything he'd almost done. For assault, for attacking a veteran named Walter Henderson. For, his voice cracked, for everything. Sir, where are you located? Miller's Point, above the old quarry. Stay where you are. Officers are on their way. Are you armed, sir? Tyler looked at the gun again. Yes, but I'm not going to use it. Sir, I need you to, I'm putting it in the glove compartment. I'm putting my hands on the steering wheel. I'm not going to hurt anyone. He took a shaky breath. I'm done hurting people. Silence on the line. Officers will be there in 15 minutes, sir. Stay on the line with me. Okay. Are you injured? No. Are you thinking about hurting yourself? Tyler closed his eyes. I was. I'm not anymore. What changed your mind? Tyler thought about the little boy, the one who'd thrown himself at grown men to protect his grandfather. 7 years old, braver than Tyler had ever been in his entire privileged life. Someone showed me what courage looks like. I figured the least I could do was treat him. The news broke at 7:23 a.m. Walt was sitting at his kitchen table staring at a cup of coffee he couldn't taste when Dorothy rushed in with her phone. Walt, you need to see this. She held up the screen. A news anchor was speaking, her face grave. Breaking news this morning. Tyler Whitmore, son of Judge Raymond Whitmore, the man accused of attacking a 74-year-old Vietnam veteran, has turned himself in to police. Sources say Whitmore called 911 from a remote location outside Cedar Ridge, expressing a desire to confess to the assault and other charges. He is currently in custody awaiting arraignment. Walt stared at the screen. He turned himself in. That's what they're saying. Why? Dorothy sat down across from him. Does it matter? Walt didn't answer. He was thinking about the look in Tyler's eyes during the attack, the arrogance, the cruelty, the absolute certainty that he was untouchable. Something had changed. Something had broken that certainty. Grandpa! Ethan stood in the doorway, rubbing sleep from his eyes. Hey, buddy, you're up early. I heard Grandma talking loud. He climbed onto Walt's lap. What's happening? Walt looked at Dorothy. She nodded slightly. The man who hurt Grandpa. He turned himself into the police. Ethan's eyes went wide. Really? Really? Does that mean he's going to jail? I don't know, buddy. Maybe. We'll have to wait and see. Ethan was quiet for a moment. Then, is he sorry? Walt thought about that question. Really thought about it. I think he might be. But being sorry isn't the same as being forgiven. He still has to face what he did. Like when I broke Grandma's vase and had to help clean it up. Something like that, but bigger. Ethan nodded solemnly. That's fair. Out of the mouths of babes, Walt thought. That's fair. At the Cedar Ridge police station, Tyler Whitmore sat in an interrogation room, his hands cuffed to the table. He'd been there for 2 hours. No lawyer, no father, just him and the buzzing fluorescent lights. The door opened. Detective Maria Santos walked in, followed by a younger officer carrying a folder thick with papers. Mr. Whitmore. Detective. She sat down across from him. Her eyes were hard, unreadable. You know, in my 15 years on the force, I've never had a suspect call 911 to turn themselves in, especially not one with your resources. There's a first time for everything. Why'd you do it? Tyler laughed. It was a hollow, bitter sound. Which part the attack running away calling you? Let's start with the call. He was quiet for a long moment. I was sitting on Miller's Point. I had a gun in my hand. I was thinking about ending it. Santos didn't flinch. What stopped you? A 7-year-old kid. The Henderson boy. Yeah. Tyler's voice dropped. I keep seeing his face, the way he threw himself at us, trying to protect his grandfather. He was terrified, but he did it anyway. He looked up at Santos. I've never done anything like that. Not once in my life. I've never been brave. I've never stood up for anyone. I've just taken whatever I wanted, whoever I wanted, and nobody ever stopped me. Your father stopped people from stopping you. Yeah, he did. Tyler's jaw tightened. And I let him. I told myself I deserved it, that I was special, that the rules didn't apply to me. And now I know I was wrong. His eyes were wet. I'm not special. I'm just a coward who's been running from consequences of my whole life. And I'm tired of running. Santos studied him for a long moment. You know what's going to happen, don't you? The charges, the trial, the media. You're going to lose everything. Good. Good. I deserve to lose everything. Tyler's voice was steady now, certain. I deserve worse than I'm going to get. That old man, Walter Henderson, he survived a war. He lost his son. He's raising his grandson alone. And I knocked him down and laughed about it. I spit on his service. I humiliated him in front of his family. His hands clenched into fists. What kind of person does that? A person who thinks they're untouchable. Yeah, well, Tyler looked at his cuffed hands. I'm not untouchable anymore. The news of Tyler's confession spread through Cedar Ridge like wildfire. At the Henderson house, the phone wouldn't stop ringing. Reporters, news stations, talk shows, everyone wanted a piece of the story. Reaper handled most of it. He stood on the porch, arms crossed, turning away anyone who got too close. Mr. Henderson isn't giving interviews. But the public wants to hear. The public can wait. Inside, Walt sat with Dorothy and Ethan trying to process everything that had happened. I don't understand, Dorothy said for the third time. Why would he confess his father could have gotten him off? Maybe he didn't want to be gotten off, Walt said quietly. What do you mean, Richard? I mean, sometimes people reach a breaking point, a moment where they can't live with themselves anymore. Maybe Tyler hit that point. After what he did to you, because of what he did to me. Walt looked at his grandson who was playing with a toy soldier on the floor. He saw Ethan. He saw what courage looked like, and he couldn't face himself anymore. That's very generous of you. It's not generous, it's just... Walt sighed. I've seen it before, in Vietnam. Men who did terrible things because they were ordered to, because they were scared, because they'd lost their humanity. And some of them, not all, but some, they came back from that. They found their way home. You think Tyler can find his way home? I think everyone deserves the chance to try. The arraignment was scheduled for 2 p.m. By 1:30, the courthouse was surrounded. Veterans, bikers, reporters, protesters with signs on both sides. Lock him up. Justice for veterans. Fair trial for all. Reaper stood at the edge of the crowd watching. Quite a show, Diesel said beside him. It's not a show, it's justice. You think he'll get what he deserves? Reaper thought about that. What did Tyler Whitmore deserve? Prison rehabilitation, forgiveness? I think that's not for us to decide. We did our part. We brought the truth to light. The rest is up to the system. The same system that failed Walt Henderson. A different system now. The whole country's watching. They can't bury this. Inside the courthouse, Tyler stood before Judge Michael Torres, a visiting judge brought in because every local judge had recused themselves due to connections to Raymond Whitmore. Mr. Whitmore, you are charged with assault and battery, elder abuse, and intimidation of a minor. How do you plead? Tyler looked at his lawyer, a public defender, because he'd refused to let his father hire anyone, and then at the judge. Guilty, Your Honor. The courtroom erupted. Order, order, Judge Torres banged his gavel. Mr. Whitmore, do you understand what you're doing? A guilty plea means, I understand, Your Honor, I'm guilty. I did what they're saying I did, and I'm ready to accept the consequences. His lawyer leaned in. Tyler, we discussed this. You could fight. I don't want to fight. Tyler's voice was calm, resigned. I want to face what I did. Judge Torres studied him for a long moment. Very well. Sentencing will be scheduled for 30 days from now, pending a pre-sentencing report. Mr. Whitmore, you are remanded to custody until that time. Yes, Your Honor. Is there anything else? Tyler turned. His eyes found someone in the gallery. Walter Henderson, sitting in the third row. Ethan beside him. Your Honor, I'd like to say something. To the victim. The courtroom went silent. Mr. Henderson. Tyler's voice shook. I know you can't forgive me. I know what I did was unforgivable, but I want you to know I'm sorry. I'm so sorry for what I did to you, for what I did to your grandson, for everything. Walt stared at him. His face was unreadable. I was raised to believe I was better than everyone else, that I could do whatever I wanted, that money and power made right. Tyler's eyes were streaming now. I was wrong. You showed me that. You and that brave little boy. You showed me what real strength looks like. Still, Walt said nothing. I'm going to spend the rest of my life trying to make up for what I did. I know I can never undo it, but I'm going to try. That's all I can promise. I'm going to try. The courtroom held its breath. Walt stood slowly. His ribs still ached. His head still throbbed. But his eyes were clear. Son, I'm going to say something to you, and I want you to listen. Yes, sir. What you did to me was wrong. It was cruel and cowardly and wrong. You hurt me in front of my grandson. You made him watch. You made him afraid. Tyler flinched. But you're not the first person to hurt me, and you probably won't be the last. Walt's voice was steady. I've been shot at by the Viet Cong. I've buried friends. I've buried my own son. Pain is part of life. I've learned to live with it. He took a step forward. What I can't live with is bitterness, hatred, carrying around anger like a stone in my chest. I tried that when I came home from the war. It almost killed me. Tyler was crying openly now. So I'm going to do something that's going to surprise you, and probably surprise everyone in this room. Walt took a deep breath. I forgive you. The courtroom gasped. Not because you deserve it, not because what you did was okay, but because I refuse to let you have any more power over my life. I refuse to carry you with me. I'm letting you go. Tyler's legs buckled. He grabbed the defendant's table to keep from falling. But forgiveness isn't the same as absolution, Walt continued. You still have to face what you did. You still have to pay the price. And most importantly, you have to change. Really change. Not just say the words, but live them. I will. Tyler's voice was barely a whisper. I swear I will. Don't swear to me. Swear to yourself. Swear to the person you want to become. Walt looked at him hard. Because if you don't change, if you go back to being the man who attacked me in that parking lot, then my forgiveness means nothing. And your confession means nothing. And all of this was just theater. It's not theater. Prove it. Tyler nodded, once, firmly. I will, sir. I promise you. I will. The bailiffs led him away. The courtroom exploded into noise, reporters shouting questions, spectators arguing, cameras flashing. But Walt didn't hear any of it. He was looking at Ethan. The boy was crying, but he was also smiling. Grandpa, yeah, buddy, was that the right thing to do? Forgiving him. Walt knelt down slowly, painfully, and took his grandson's hands. The right thing to do is always the hardest thing to do. Forgiving someone who hurt you, really forgiving them, is one of the hardest things a person can do. Then why did you do it? Because I didn't want to be angry anymore. Anger is like drinking poison and hoping the other person gets sick. It only hurts you. That's what Mom used to say. Walt's heart clenched. Your mom was a smart woman. I miss her. I know, buddy. I miss her too. Ethan hugged him tight. I'm glad you forgave him, Grandpa. Even though he was mean. Me too, buddy. Me too. Outside the courthouse, Reaper was waiting. That was something, sir. Walt shook his head. It was just the truth. Not everyone can tell the truth like that, in front of cameras, in front of the whole country. I wasn't talking to the country. I was talking to a broken young man who needed to hear that redemption was possible. Reaper studied him. You really believe that he can change? I believe everyone deserves the chance to try. Whether they succeed, that's up to them. And if he doesn't, if he goes back to his old ways, then I'll have lost nothing, and he'll have lost everything. Walt looked back at the courthouse. But I don't think he will. I saw something in his eyes today. Something I haven't seen in a lot of young people. What's that? Shame. Real shame, the kind that changes you. That evening, the Henderson house was quiet for the first time in days. The reporters had finally left. The bikers were still there, a handful on rotating watch, but they kept their distance. The veterans who'd gathered had gone home, promising to return for the sentencing. Walt sat on his porch watching the sunset. Dorothy brought him coffee, sat beside him. You did a brave thing today. I did what I had to do. It was more than that. She took his hand. 50 years I've known you, Walter Henderson. 50 years I've watched you carry the weight of what happened over there. And today I finally saw you put some of it down. Walt was quiet for a long moment. I didn't put it down, Dot. I just stopped letting it crush me. Isn't that the same thing? No, the weight's still there. It'll always be there. But now, he looked at his wife, at this woman who had waited for him through everything. Now I can carry it without falling. Dorothy leaned her head on his shoulder. I love you, you stubborn old fool. I love you too. They sat there in silence, watching the sun disappear behind the mountains. Inside, Ethan was on the phone with Reaper. So you're not leaving? Not yet, little man. We've got to make sure your grandpa's safe until the sentencing. And after that, we'll see. But I promise you one thing. What? You've got our number. Anytime you need us, anytime you call, and we'll come. Really? You're one of us now, Ethan. You're family. The boy's face lit up. I'm family. Hell's Angels don't leave family behind, ever. That's a bad word. Reaper laughed. You're right. Sorry, Hex Angels. Ethan giggled. That sounds funny. Yeah, it does. But you know what I mean. I know. The boy's voice softened. Thank you, Mr. Reaper, for everything. Thank you, Ethan, for showing us what courage looks like. The call ended. Ethan sat there for a moment holding the phone. Then he ran to the porch. Grandpa, Walt turned. What is it, buddy? Mr. Reaper says I'm family now. I'm part of the Hell's Angels. Dorothy covered her mouth to hide her smile. Walt raised an eyebrow. That's so. Well, not really, but kind of really. He says they'll come whenever I call. He says I'm one of them. Walt looked at his grandson. This boy who had lost so much and gained so much, who had shown courage that grown men couldn't match, who had reminded an old veteran what it meant to fight. You know what, buddy? I think he's right. Really, you've earned it. Ethan beamed, then his face grew serious. Grandpa, yeah. When I grow up, I want to be like you, and like Mr. Reaper. I want to help people. Walt's eyes stung. You already do, buddy. You already do. 3 weeks later, Tyler Whitmore stood before Judge Torres for sentencing. The courtroom was packed. Same crowd as before, veterans, bikers, reporters, concerned citizens. But the atmosphere was different. Less angry, more expectant. Mr. Whitmore, before I deliver your sentence, I want to say something. Tyler stood straight. His time in custody had changed him. He was thinner, quieter. Something in his eyes had shifted. In my 30 years on the bench, I've seen a lot of defendants. Most of them lie. Most of them make excuses. Most of them blame everyone but themselves. Tyler didn't flinch. You didn't do that. You confessed. You apologized. And according to the pre-sentencing report, you've spent your time in custody volunteering at the prison's Veterans Outreach Program. A murmur ran through the courtroom. That doesn't erase what you did. Nothing can erase that. But it tells me something about who you're trying to become. Judge Torres looked at his notes. Mr. Whitmore, I sentence you to 3 years in state prison with the possibility of parole after 18 months. Additionally, upon release, you will complete 500 hours of community service with veterans organizations. And you will participate in a mandatory rehabilitation program for violent offenders. Tyler nodded. Yes, Your Honor. One more thing. The judge leaned forward. Mr. Henderson showed you mercy. Don't waste it. Don't make his forgiveness meaningless. Do you understand? I understand, Your Honor. Then this court is adjourned. The bailiffs moved to take Tyler away, but before they could, he turned. His eyes found Walt in the gallery. Thank you, sir. Walt nodded once, and then Tyler Whitmore was gone. Outside the courthouse, the crowd dispersed slowly. Reaper stood beside Walt, watching the reporters pack up their equipment. It's over. Is it? Walt shook his head. This is just the beginning for that boy. The hard work starts now. You think he'll make it? I think he has a chance. That's more than a lot of people get. And his father, Walt had heard the news. Judge Raymond Whitmore had resigned from the bench. The investigation into his cover-ups was ongoing. His political career was over. His reputation was destroyed. His father made his choices. Now he's living with them. That's a diplomatic way of putting it. I'm too old for revenge, Marcus. It doesn't bring you anything but more pain. Reaper smiled. You know, for an old man, you're pretty wise. For a biker, you're pretty philosophical. They both laughed. Ethan tugged on Reaper's jacket. Mr. Reaper. Yeah, little man. Are you leaving now? Reaper knelt down. We're heading out tomorrow. Gotta get back to our regular lives. Oh, the boy's face fell. But that doesn't mean we're gone. Remember what I told you, that I can call anytime. That's right, and we'll come no matter what, no matter when. You're family now. Ethan threw his arms around Reaper's neck. I'll miss you. I'll miss you too, buddy. Reaper hugged him tight. But I'll be back for your birthday. Your grandpa promised me cake. Ethan pulled back, grinning. Grandma makes the best cake. I believe it. Walt extended his hand. Reaper took it. No words were needed. Everything had already been said. That night, the Henderson family sat down to dinner together. Just the three of them. Walt, Dorothy, Ethan. The house was quiet. The crowd was gone. The cameras were packed up. For the first time in weeks, it was just them. Grandpa, yeah, buddy, can we still build the treehouse? Walt smiled. You know what I think we can. Really, when? How about this weekend? Ethan's face lit up like Christmas. Really, you promise. I promise. Purple paint and everything. And a pirate flag? And a pirate flag. Dorothy reached across the table and took Walt's hand. You're going to hurt yourself. Probably, Pray. Your ribs aren't healed yet. Probably not. You're a stubborn old fool. Probably, Antoine. She smiled. I'll help. I was counting on it. Ethan was bouncing in his seat. Can Mr. Reaper help too before he leaves? Walt looked at Dorothy. She shrugged. I don't see why not. Yay! And so the next morning, something happened that Cedar Ridge had never seen before. 47 bikers showed up at the Henderson house with tools. What's all this? Walt stared at the crowd on his lawn. Reaper grinned. You didn't think we'd leave without helping, did you? I thought you were leaving today. We are after the treehouse is done. Marcus, you don't have to. Yeah, we do. Reaper put his hand on Walt's shoulder. This is what brothers do. We take care of each other all the way. By noon, the treehouse was framed. By 3, it was walled. By sunset, it was painted purple with a flagpole on top and a perfect view of the mountains. Ethan stood at the base staring up at it with wonder. It's perfect. Walt stood beside him, his arm around Dorothy, his ribs screaming, his heart full. Yeah, buddy, it is. Reaper climbed down from the platform, sawdust in his hair. What do you think, little man? I think it's the best tree house in the whole world. Only the best for our family. Ethan hugged his leg. Thank you, Mr. Reaper. Thank you for everything. Thank you, Ethan. Reaper knelt down, for reminding us why we ride. The bikers gathered around. 47 men and women. Engines idling, ready to leave, but not before one last thing. Reaper pulled something from his jacket, a small patch. This is for you, Ethan. It's not official, you're too young for that, but it's real. It means you're one of us, forever. Ethan took the patch with trembling hands. It read, Junior Guardian. I'm a guardian, the youngest one we've ever had. Reaper smiled. Wear it proud. Ethan clutched the patch to his chest like it was the most precious thing in the world. And maybe it was. The bikes started up, one by one, a symphony of thunder. Reaper mounted his Harley, gave one last salute. Until next time, Henderson family. Until next time, Walt replied. And then they were gone, roaring down the road, disappearing into the sunset, but not forgotten, never forgotten. 6 months passed. Winter came to Cedar Ridge. Snow blanketed the mountains. The treehouse stood proud against the white landscape, its purple paint bright even in the gray days. Walt Henderson stood at his kitchen window watching Ethan play in the backyard. The boy was building a snowman with a neighbor's kid, laughing, throwing snowballs, acting like a normal 7-year-old for the first time in months. He's getting better. Dorothy joined him at the window, coffee in hand. Yeah, he is. The nightmares have stopped. Mostly, he still has one now and then, but he's sleeping through most nights. That's good. Walt nodded, but something in his eyes was troubled. Dorothy saw it. She always saw it. What is it? I got a letter today. From who? Walt pulled an envelope from his pocket. The return address was Montana State Prison. Tyler Whitmore. Dorothy set down her coffee cup. What does he want? I haven't opened it yet. Why not? Walt stared at the envelope. I don't know. I guess I'm not sure I want to know what's inside. Dorothy took his hand. You forgave him, Walt. In front of the whole country. That door is already open. Forgiving someone and hearing from them are two different things. Are they, duh? Walt didn't answer. Ethan came running in, cheeks red from cold snow melting in his hair. Grandpa, me, and Tommy made the biggest snowman ever. Come see. Walt tucked the letter back in his pocket. Show me, soldier. That night after Ethan was asleep, Walt finally opened the letter. He sat alone in his study, the old lamp casting yellow light on the paper. His hands trembled slightly as he unfolded it. Dear Mr. Henderson, I've started this letter 100 times. Thrown away 99 of them. I don't know if you'll read this. I don't know if you should. 6 months ago, I was a monster. I know that now. I didn't know it then. I thought I was untouchable. I thought I was better than everyone else. I thought money and power were the only things that mattered. I was wrong. What I did to you haunts me every night. I close my eyes and I see your face. I see your grandson throwing himself at me. I see your hat floating in that puddle. I see the blood on your forehead. I did that. Me. And nothing I do will ever undo it. But I'm trying, sir. I'm really trying. I've been working in the prison's veterans program, helping men who served, listening to their stories, learning about sacrifice and duty and honor, things I never understood before. There's a man here named Samuel. He was in Desert Storm, lost both his legs to an IED, lost his wife to cancer, lost his kids to the foster system. He has every reason to be angry, every reason to hate the world. But he doesn't. He told me something last week that I can't stop thinking about. He said, hate is a chain, son. It ties you to the thing you hate. If you want to be free, you have to let go. I think that's what you did when you forgave me. You let go of the chain. You freed yourself. I'm still working on that. Some days are harder than others, but I'm trying. I don't expect you to write back. I don't expect anything from you. You've already given me more than I deserved, but I wanted you to know I haven't forgotten what you said about changing, about proving it through action, not words. I'm trying to be the man you challenged me to become. Thank you for believing it was possible. Tyler Whitmore. Walt set down the letter. His hands weren't trembling anymore. Dorothy appeared in the doorway. Well, he's trying, really trying. I think so. Walt looked up at his wife. He mentioned a program for veterans in the prison. He's volunteering there. That's unexpected. Yeah. Walt folded the letter carefully. It is. Are you going to write back? Walt thought about it for a long moment. Not yet, but maybe someday. What changed? Nothing changed. He's still the man who attacked me. He's still paying for what he did. Walt paused. But he's also a man who's trying to be better, and that means something. Dorothy sat beside him. You see yourself in him, don't you? Walt was quiet. When I came home from Vietnam, I was angry. So angry at the government, at the protesters, at everyone who didn't understand what we'd been through. He shook his head. I did things I'm not proud of, Dot. Said things, hurt people. You were different. Was I? I was a young man who'd seen terrible things and didn't know how to handle it. Tyler's the same. He never had anyone to show him a better way. And now he does. Maybe. Maybe this is his chance. Just like coming home was my chance. Walt looked at the letter. I almost didn't take my chance. If you hadn't been there, Dorothy squeezed his hand. I was there. I'm always here. I know. He kissed her forehead. That's why I survived. 3 months later, spring arrived. The snow melted, the mountains turned green, and a phone call changed everything. Walt was working in the garden when Dorothy came running out. Walt, phone, it's urgent. He wiped his hands on his jeans and hurried inside. Hello. Mr. Henderson, this is Warden Patricia Collins at Montana State Prison. I'm calling about Tyler Whitmore. Walt's blood went cold. What happened? He's fine, physically anyway, but something happened last night that I thought you should know about. Tell me. The warden's voice was careful, measured. There was an incident in the yard. A fight broke out between two rival groups. Tyler was caught in the middle. Is he hurt? That's just it, sir. He should be. But he's not. I don't understand. One of the men involved a man named Marcus Davis. He's a veteran, Iraq, 2 tours. He was about to be beaten badly by the other group. Tyler stepped in. Walt gripped the phone tighter. Stepped in how? He threw himself between Davis and the attackers. Took 3 punches before the guards could intervene. He's got a black eye and some bruised ribs, but nothing serious. He protected a veteran. Yes, sir. And when we asked him, why do you know what he said? What? He said because it's what Mr. Henderson would have done. Walt couldn't speak. Sir, are you still there? Yeah, his voice was rough. Yeah, I'm here. I thought you'd want to know. We're putting Tyler in for early consideration for parole. His behavior has been exemplary. This incident just confirmed what we've been seeing for months. When would he get out? If approved, 3 months. Walt sat down heavily. 3 months. I know this is a lot to process, but I wanted you to hear it from me first, before the media gets hold of it. Thank you, Warden. I appreciate the call. Of course, and Mr. Henderson. Yeah. Whatever you said to that young man in the courtroom, whatever you did, it worked. I've been doing this job for 20 years. I've seen a lot of prisoners. Most of them don't change. But Tyler Whitmore, she paused, he's not the same man who walked in here 9 months ago. I'm glad to hear that. Take care, Mr. Henderson. The line went dead. Walt sat there for a long time, staring at nothing. Dorothy stood in the doorway. What happened? Tyler saved a veteran, in prison, took a beating for it. Oh my. They're considering early parole. How do you feel about that? Walt shook his head slowly. I don't know, Dot. I honestly don't know. The news hit Cedar Ridge like a thunderbolt. Tyler Whitmore saves veteran in prison fight. Judge's son becomes hero behind bars. Redemption Whitmore up for early parole. The town was divided. Some people celebrated, others protested. Arguments erupted in diners and barbershops and church parking lots. At the Henderson house, the phone wouldn't stop ringing. Mr. Henderson, this is CNN. We'd like to get your reaction. Walt hung up. It rang again. Mr. Henderson, Fox News would like to... He hung up again. Mr. Henderson. He unplugged the phone. Grandpa, Ethan stood in the doorway looking worried. Why are all those people calling? Just reporters. Buddy, nothing to worry about. Is it about the bad man, the one who hurt you? Walt knelt down. His knees protested. They always did now, but he ignored them. Remember what we talked about how people can change. Like caterpillars become butterflies. Exactly like that. Walt smiled. Well, the man who hurt me, Tyler, he's been trying very hard to change. And something happened that's making people talk about him again. Good talking or bad talking. Both. Some people think he's changed. Some people think he hasn't. What do you think? Walt considered the question carefully. This boy deserved honesty. I think people can change if they really want to. And I think Tyler really wants to. But I also think it takes a long time. And he's only just started. So he's like a caterpillar who's still in his cocoon. Something like that. Ethan nodded solemnly. Then we should wait and see what kind of butterfly he becomes. Walt pulled his grandson into a hug. When did you get so smart? Grandma says I take after her. Walt laughed. She's probably right. 2 weeks later, Reaper called. Heard the news. Everyone's heard the news. How you holding up? Walt sighed. I'm tired, Marcus. Tired of cameras. Tired of questions. Tired of people treating my life like it's a reality show. Want us to come back, run interference. No, you've done enough. This is something I have to handle myself. You sure? I'm sure my... Walt paused. But thank you for offering. Always. Reaper was quiet for a moment. You know, I've been thinking about what you said in the courtroom about forgiveness. What about it? I've been carrying some things for a long time. Things from Afghanistan, things I did, things I saw. His voice was rough. I always told myself I couldn't let go, that I didn't deserve to. And now I'm not so sure. Watching you forgive that kid, watching you refuse to let hate own you, it made me think. About what? About whether I've been punishing myself for no reason. About whether the chains I've been carrying are ones I put on myself. Walt smiled. That's a heavy thought for a phone call. Yeah, well, you started it. Guess I did. Silence. Then, thanks, Walt. For what? For showing an old soldier that it's never too late to put down the weight. The parole hearing was scheduled for June. Walt didn't attend. He didn't need to. The decision would be made regardless of his presence. But on the morning of the hearing, he did something he hadn't done in years. He went to church. The small chapel on Main Street was empty at 9 a.m. on a Tuesday. Just Walt in the wooden pews and the sunlight streaming through stained glass. He sat in the back row, folded his hands, closed his eyes. He wasn't sure if he was praying, wasn't sure if he believed in that anymore, but he needed somewhere quiet to think, somewhere away from the noise. Mind if I join you? Walt opened his eyes. An old man stood in the aisle, white hair, kind eyes, a collar around his neck. Father Mitchell. Walt Henderson. The priest sat down beside him. Been a while. 20 years probably. Not that I'm counting. Mitchell smiled. What brings you in today? I don't know, just needed somewhere to think. That's what we're here for. Mitchell was quiet for a moment. I've been following your story. Everyone has. That was a brave thing you did. Forgiving that young man. Didn't feel brave, felt necessary. Sometimes those are the same thing. Walt stared at the altar. Father, can I ask you something? Of course. Do you believe people can really change deep down, not just act different, but actually become different? Mitchell considered the question. I believe people can change, but I also believe it requires more than just wanting to. It requires doing the work, day after day, choice after choice, until the new way becomes the only way. That sounds hard. It is. That's why most people don't do it. It's easier to stay the same, even when staying the same is killing you. And if someone does do the work, does make the choices, what then? Then they become who they were meant to be. The person they were always capable of becoming if someone had just shown them how. Walt thought about that, about Tyler in that prison defending a veteran he didn't know, about the letter sitting in his desk drawer, about the boy who had attacked him and the man who was emerging from the rubble. I think I showed someone how, or at least I tried. And now I'm waiting to see if it took. Mitchell put his hand on Walt's shoulder. That's all any of us can do. Plant the seed, water it, and trust that something will grow. What if it doesn't? Then you plant another seed, and another, until one of them takes root. Walt nodded slowly. Thank you, Father. Thank you, Walt, for reminding this old town what grace looks like. The parole board made their decision at 3:17 p.m. Walt was sitting on his porch when his phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Mr. Henderson, this is Tyler. They approved my parole. I'm getting out next week. I know I have no right to ask, but would you be willing to meet with me just to talk? You can say no. I'll understand, but I had to ask. Walt stared at the message for a long time. Dorothy came out with lemonade, saw his face. What is it? He showed her the phone. She read it twice. What are you going to do? I don't know. Yes, you do. Walt looked at her. What do you mean? I mean, you've known what you were going to do since the moment you forgave him in that courtroom. You just haven't admitted it to yourself yet. And what's that? Dorothy sat beside him, took his hand. You're going to meet him. You're going to look him in the eye, and you're going to see if the man who walks out of that prison is the same man who walked in. What if he is? Then you'll know, and you can finally close this chapter. And if he's not, if he's really changed, Dorothy smiled, then you'll help him figure out what comes next. Because that's who you are, Walter Henderson. That's who you've always been. Walt looked at his phone, at the message, waiting for a reply. Then he started typing. Yes, I'll meet you. Tell me when and where. The response came immediately. Thank you. I won't waste this chance. I promise. Walt put the phone down. Ethan came running around the corner of the house chasing a butterfly. Grandpa, look, I almost caught it. Walt watched his grandson leap and laugh and live. This boy, this beautiful, brave boy, the reason Walt had kept fighting, the reason any of this mattered. Let it go, buddy. But I almost had it. I know, but butterflies aren't meant to be caught. They're meant to be free. Ethan stopped, watched the butterfly flutter away into the afternoon sky. Okay, Grandpa. He ran over and climbed onto Walt's lap. Can we have lemonade? Grandma just brought some out. Yay! As Ethan grabbed his glass, Walt looked at the mountains, at the treehouse, at the life he'd built from the ashes of so much loss. 1 week. In 1 week, he would face the man who had tried to destroy him, and he would find out if grace was stronger than hate, if redemption was possible, if any of this had meant anything at all. The release date arrived on a Tuesday. Walt drove to the prison alone, Dorothy had offered to come, so had Reaper when he heard. But Walt needed to do this by himself, needed to face Tyler without backup, without witnesses. Just two men who had been bound together by violence and were trying to find their way to something else. The prison gates were smaller than he expected, less imposing, just chain link and barbed wire and concrete. He parked in the visitor lot, killed the engine, sat there for a long moment. His hands were steady, his heart was not. The door opened at exactly 10 a.m. Tyler Whitmore walked out. He was different, thinner, harder. The arrogance was gone from his face, replaced by something quieter, more uncertain. He saw Walt's truck, stopped. For a long moment, neither of them moved. Then Tyler walked over, slowly, like he was approaching something fragile. He stopped 3 feet away. Mr. Henderson? Tyler. Silence. Thank you for coming. You didn't have to. No, I didn't. Why did you? Walt looked at him, really looked, at the man Tyler had been, at the man he was becoming. Because you asked, and because I wanted to see for myself. See what, if you're real, if all of this is real, or if it's just an act to get out early. Tyler's jaw tightened. It's real. Prove it. How time I don't know. That's your job, to figure out. Walt leaned against his truck. Look, Tyler, I forgave you because holding on to hate was killing me. Not because you deserved it, not because what you did was okay, but because I couldn't carry it anymore. I understand. Do you? Because forgiveness isn't the same as trust. It's not the same as believing you've changed. It's just letting go of the anger, The rest, the trust, the belief that has to be earned. Tyler nodded. I know. So earn it. Not for me, for yourself, for everyone you've ever hurt. Walt straightened. Become the man you should have been. The man you could have been if someone had taught you right from wrong when you still had time to learn it. And if I fail, then you fail and you get up and you try again. That's what life is, son, falling down and getting up over and over until you stop falling. Tyler's eyes were wet. My father never taught me that. I know. He taught me that falling was weakness, that asking for help was shame, that the only thing that mattered was winning. He was wrong. I know that now. Tyler took a shaky breath. But knowing and doing are different things. Yeah, they are. Walt opened his truck door. That's why I'm not going to shake your hand today. Not yet. You haven't earned it. Tyler flinched, but he didn't argue. But I am going to give you something. Walt reached into his truck and pulled out a piece of paper. There's a veterans center in town. They need volunteers, men who can do the hard work, cleaning, maintenance, whatever needs doing. It's not glamorous, it doesn't pay, but it matters. Tyler took the paper. His hands were trembling. You want me to volunteer? I want you to show up every day, do the work, and prove that what happened in that prison wasn't a one-time thing. And if I do, then maybe someday I'll shake your hand and we can start over, not as victim and attacker, but as two men who've been through hell and came out the other side. Tyler stared at the paper, at the address, at the chance he was being offered. Mr. Henderson. Yeah, thank you for not giving up on me. I didn't do it for you, son. I did it for me, and for my grandson, and for everyone who needs to believe that people can change. Walt climbed into his truck. Now go prove us right. He drove away without looking back. In his rearview mirror, Tyler stood alone in the parking lot holding that piece of paper like it was the most precious thing in the world. And maybe it was. Back home, Ethan was waiting on the porch. Grandpa. He ran to the truck before Walt even had the engine off. How'd it go? Did you see him? Is he different? Walt climbed out slowly. His bones ached. His heart was full. I saw him. And then Walt knelt down, every joint protesting, and looked his grandson in the eye. You know what I told you about caterpillars and butterflies? Yeah, I think he's out of the cocoon now, but he's still learning to fly. Does that mean he's a good butterfly? I don't know yet, buddy. We'll have to wait and see. Ethan considered this, then he nodded. Okay, I can wait. Good man. Dorothy appeared in the doorway. Well, Walt stood up, walked to his wife, pulled her into a long embrace. I think it's going to be okay, Dot. Yeah. He kissed her forehead. Not today. Maybe not tomorrow, but someday. And until then, Walt looked at his house, his family, his life. Until then, we keep living. We keep loving. We keep building tree houses and making snowmen and watching butterflies. That sounds like a good plan. It's the only plan I've got. Dorothy smiled. Then it's perfect. That night, Ethan fell asleep in the tree house for the first time. Walt carried him down at midnight, wrapped in a blanket, smelling like sawdust and dreams. As he tucked the boy into bed, Ethan stirred. Grandpa? Yeah, buddy. I'm glad you're here. Me too, buddy. Me too. Promise you'll always be here. Walt smoothed the boy's hair, thought about all the promises he'd made in his life, the ones he'd kept, the ones he'd broken. I promise I'll be here as long as I can, buddy. And when I'm not, I'll be watching over you. Just like those bikers, just like your mom and dad. From heaven, from wherever good people go when they're done down here. Ethan smiled sleepily. Okay, I love you, Grandpa. I love you too, soldier. More than you'll ever know. The boy drifted off. Walt stood there for a long time watching him breathe. Then he went to his study, pulled out a piece of paper, and started to write. Dear Tyler, I met you today because I needed to see for myself, to know if the man who walked out of that prison was different from the man who walked in. I'm still not sure, but I'm willing to find out. You asked me once why I forgave you. The truth is, I'm still figuring that out myself. Maybe it was for you, maybe it was for me, Maybe it was for Ethan, so he could see that hate doesn't have to win. But I think it was also for my son, James, the one who died. He would have been about your age. He had your eyes, believe it or not. That same desperate need to prove himself. That same fear of failure. I wasn't always a good father to him. I was too hard, too distant, too wrapped up in my own pain. By the time I figured out how to love him properly, he was gone. Maybe that's why I couldn't give up on you. Maybe I saw a chance to do for you what I never did for him. I don't know if that makes sense. I don't know if anything makes sense anymore. But I know this, you have a chance, a real chance. Don't waste it. Show up at that veteran center. Do the work. Become the man you were meant to be. And maybe, just maybe, you and I can finish this story the right way. Not as enemies, but as proof that redemption is possible. Walt Henderson. He folded the letter, addressed it to the halfway house where Tyler was staying, and put it by the door to mail in the morning. Outside, the stars wheeled overhead. Somewhere in the distance, an engine rumbled, and Walter Henderson, 74 years old veteran grandfather survivor, smiled. Because for the first time in a long time, he believed the future might be worth living for. Tyler Whitmore showed up at the Cedar Ridge Veteran Center at 6 a.m. on a Monday morning. The director, a gruff Korean War veteran named Harold Simmons, didn't know what to make of him. "You're the Whitmore kid." "Yes, sir." "The one who beat up Walt Henderson?" "Yes, sir." Harold studied him for a long moment, 78 years old, missing 2 fingers on his left hand, eyes that had seen things no one should ever see. "Why are you here?" "Because Mr. Henderson sent me." "Walt sent you. He gave me this address, said you needed volunteers." Harold laughed. It was a dry, humorless sound. "We need a lot of things. Money, supplies, a government that gives a damn. Volunteers." He shrugged. "Sure, why not? You know how to mop." "I can learn." "Then grab a mop. 3rd closet on the left. Bathrooms need cleaning." Tyler didn't hesitate, didn't complain, didn't remind Harold that his family used to own half this town. He just grabbed the mop and got to work. 3 weeks later, Harold called Walt. "He's still here. Every day. Every damn day. 6 in the morning. Doesn't leave until dark. I've thrown every nasty job I can think of at him, toilets, trash, scrubbing floors on his hands and knees. He does it all. Doesn't say a word." Walt was quiet for a moment. "What do the veterans think of him?" "Most of them hate him. They remember what he did to you. A few of them have given him hell, called him names, spit on him worse. And he takes it, says he deserves worse." Harold paused. "Walt, I've been running this center for 20 years. I've seen a lot of men come through those doors. Most of them are broken in one way or another. But this kid, I've never seen anyone work so hard to put themselves back together. You think he's changed? I think he's trying. Whether he makes it..." Harold sighed. "That's up to him. And maybe up to you." "What do you mean?" "The men here, they respect you. If you gave him your blessing, it would mean something. It would change how they treat him." "I'm not ready for that." "I understand, but don't wait too long. Walt, sometimes people need to know someone believes in them before they start believing in themselves." Walt hung up. He sat in his study for a long time thinking about what Harold had said. Then he called Reaper. The annual Hells Angels charity ride was scheduled for August. Every year, bikers from across the state gathered in Cedar Ridge for a 100-mile ride through the mountains, raising money for veteran causes. It was loud, chaotic, and beautiful, a river of chrome and leather that reminded the world that those who served were not forgotten. This year was different. This year, Walter Henderson was the guest of honor. "You sure about this?" Dorothy asked, watching him button his cleanest shirt. "No, but I'm doing it anyway." "You hate crowds." "I hate a lot of things. Doesn't mean I get to avoid them." Dorothy smiled and kissed his cheek. "That's my stubborn old fool." Ethan came bouncing in wearing his junior guardian patch on a tiny leather vest that Reaper had sent specially for the occasion. Grandpa, is it time? Are we going?" "Almost, soldier. Just waiting for our ride." "Ride what ride?" As if on cue, the rumble started, low at first, then louder, then so loud the windows shook. Ethan ran to the door and threw it open. His jaw dropped. 47 motorcycles filled the street. At their head, Reaper sat astride his Harley, grinning. "You ready, Henderson family?" Ethan screamed with buoyant and ran toward the bikes. Dorothy shook her head. "That boy is going to be impossible to live with after this." "He already is." Walt smiled. "That's what makes him perfect." The ride began at noon, over 200 motorcycles, veterans, bikers, families, all of them united by a common purpose. The sound was deafening. The sight was magnificent. Walt rode in a sidecar attached to Reaper's bike. Ethan sat in his lap, waving at the crowds that lined the streets. "This is the best day ever." "You said that about the treehouse." "That was the best day then. This is the best day now." Walt laughed. He couldn't help it. This boy, this beautiful, resilient boy, had brought joy back into his life when he thought joy was gone forever. The route wound through Cedar Ridge, past the hardware store, where it all began, past the courthouse where Tyler had confessed, past the Veterans Center, where Walt's heart stopped. Tyler Whitmore stood on the sidewalk. He wasn't marching with the crowd, wasn't waving a sign. He was just standing there in his work clothes, watching the parade go by. Their eyes met. For a long moment, the world seemed to stop. Then Tyler raised his hand. Not a wave, just an acknowledgement, a gesture of respect. Walt nodded back, and the parade moved on. The rally point was Miller's Field, a wide stretch of grass at the edge of town where the mountains met the sky. Tables were set up with food and drinks. A stage had been erected for speeches. Children ran through the crowd while bikers compared their machines and veterans swapped stories. Reaper found Walt sitting alone on a bench, watching Ethan play with the other kids. "You saw him." "I saw him." "How'd it feel?" Walt considered the question. "I don't know. Complicated." "Everything's complicated." Reaper sat beside him. "But you're still here. He's still here. That means something." "Does it?" "It means neither of you gave up, on yourselves or on each other." Reaper looked at the crowd. "Most people, when they go through something like what you went through, they shut down. They let the hate win. They become smaller, meaner, harder." "Hey, I've been there." "I know, I've been there too." Reaper turned to face him. "But you didn't stay there. You fought your way out, and then you turned around and offered Tyler a way out too. That's rare, Walt. That's powerful." "I didn't do anything special." "Yeah, you did." Reaper stood. "Now come on, you've got a speech to give." "I hate speeches." "I know, that's why I'm dragging you up there before you can talk yourself out of it." The crowd gathered as Walt climbed the stage. 200 faces looking up at him. Veterans in wheelchairs, bikers in leather, families with children. All of them waiting to hear what he had to say. His hands were shaking, his knees were weak. Then he saw Ethan in the front row waving. "You can do it, Grandpa." Walt smiled, and he began. "I'm not good at speeches, never have been. In Vietnam, they told us to keep our heads down and our mouths shut. So that's what I did, for 50 years. A murmur of laughter from the veterans in the crowd. But something happened this year that made me rethink that. Something that started in a parking lot and ended up here with all of you." He paused, looked at the sea of faces. "Most of you know the story. You saw the video, you read the headlines, you know about the attack, about the bikers who came to help, about the young man who confessed." He could feel the tension in the crowd. Some of them still hated Tyler, wanted him to suffer more, wanted Walt to condemn him. He wasn't going to do that. What you might not know is what happened after, behind the headlines, behind the cameras, in the quiet moments when no one was watching. Walt took a breath. "I forgave Tyler Whitmore in that courtroom. I meant it, but I didn't trust him. I didn't believe he could change. I thought forgiveness was something I did for myself, a way to let go of the anger. I didn't think it would matter to him." He shook his head slowly. "I was wrong." The crowd stirred. "That young man, the one who attacked me, humiliated me, made my grandson watch. He's been volunteering at the Veterans Center for the past 2 months. Every day. 6 in the morning until dark. Cleaning toilets, scrubbing floors, taking abuse from men who rightfully despise him." Someone in the crowd shouted, "He deserves worse." Walt nodded. "Maybe he does, but that's not my decision to make. My decision was whether to give him a chance. And I did, because someone gave me a chance once when I didn't deserve it either." He looked at Dorothy in the crowd. Her eyes were wet. When I came home from Vietnam, I was angry. So angry. I hurt people. I said terrible things. I pushed away everyone who loved me. I was lost and I didn't know how to find my way back. He pointed at his wife. That woman right there. She refused to give up on me. She saw something in me that I couldn't see in myself. She believed that I could change even when I didn't believe it. Dorothy was crying openly now. So were several people around her. That's what grace looks like. That's what love looks like. Not giving people what they deserve, but giving them what they need. Walt straightened. I'm not saying Tyler Whitmore is a saint. I'm not saying what he did was okay. I'm saying that people can change. I'm living proof, and maybe just maybe he can be proof too. He looked toward the edge of the crowd. Tyler was there, standing apart from everyone else, listening. Tyler. The young man flinched. Come up here. A gasp ran through the crowd. Tyler didn't move. I'm not going to ask twice. Slowly, hesitantly, Tyler walked toward the stage. The crowd parted for him like the Red Sea. No one touched him. No one spoke. They just watched. He climbed the steps, stood beside Walt. His face was pale. His hands were shaking. Look at these people. Tyler looked. These are the men and women you insulted when you attacked me. Veterans, families, people who have sacrificed more than you can imagine. Tyler nodded. You owe them something. I know. No, I mean right now. You owe them something right now. Tyler's eyes went wide. What? Tell them what you told me in the courtroom. Tell them why you did what you did. Tell them how you felt. Tell them what you've learned. I can't. Yes, you can. Walt's voice was firm but not unkind. This is part of it, son. Part of the work. You don't get to hide anymore. Tyler stared at him, then at the crowd, then back at Walt. Okay. His voice cracked. Okay. He stepped forward. His whole body was trembling. My name is Tyler Whitmore. Most of you know who I am, what I did. Silence. I attacked Mr. Henderson in a parking lot in front of his grandson. I knocked him down and laughed about it. I spit near his face. I called him names. Someone in the crowd cursed at him. Tyler didn't flinch. I did those things because I was angry. Not at him. I didn't even know him. I was angry at the world, at myself, at everything I couldn't control. He took a shaky breath. I grew up believing I was special. That rules didn't apply to me. That money and power made right. My father taught me that. Every time I did something wrong, he made it disappear. Every time I hurt someone, he paid them off. His voice dropped. I never learned that actions have consequences. I never learned that other people's pain matters. I never learned how to be a man. He looked at Walt. Mr. Henderson taught me that, not by lecturing me, not by punishing me, but by forgiving me, by showing me what grace looks like, by believing I could change even when I didn't believe it myself. His eyes swept the crowd. I'm not asking for your forgiveness. I haven't earned it. I might never earn it, but I'm asking for a chance to prove that I'm not the man I was, a chance to become someone worthy of the grace I've been given. He stopped, waited. The silence stretched. Then from the front row, a small voice piped up. I forgive you. Everyone turned. Ethan stood there, his junior guardian patch gleaming. Buddy, Walt started. No, Grandpa, I want to say it. Ethan looked at Tyler. You were mean to my grandpa. You made me really scared. I had nightmares about you. Tyler flinched. But Grandpa says people can change, like caterpillars become butterflies. And I think maybe you're becoming a butterfly. The crowd was utterly silent. So I forgive you, because carrying the mad feelings makes my tummy hurt, and I don't want my tummy to hurt anymore. Tyler dropped to his knees, right there on the stage, in front of 200 people. Thank you. His voice was barely a whisper. Thank you. Ethan walked up to him, this tiny boy, this giant heart. He stuck out his hand. Friends. Tyler stared at the small hand, at the impossible grace being offered. Then he took it. Friends. The crowd erupted, not in anger, not in protest, in applause. It started slow, a few people, then more still. Veterans who had cursed Tyler's name, bikers who had wanted him destroyed, families who had feared him, all of them clapping because they had just witnessed something rare, something sacred, a child teaching adults what forgiveness really means. Walt pulled Ethan into a hug. "I'm proud of you, soldier." "Was that okay, Grandpa?" "That was more than okay, that was perfect." Dorothy rushed the stage, threw her arms around both of them. Reaper stood at the edge, arms crossed, tears streaming down his weathered face. "Well, I'll be damned," he said to Diesel. "The kid did it." "Which kid?" Reaper smiled. "Both of them." The rest of the rally was a blur of celebration, food, music, stories, laughter, the sound of engines and the clink of glasses. Tyler stayed at the edge of things, uncertain of his welcome. But one by one, people approached him. Not with forgiveness, not yet, but with acknowledgement. Nods, brief words, the first tentative steps toward acceptance. Harold Simmons found him standing alone watching the sunset. "Hell of a speech. I almost passed out. Wouldn't have blamed you." Harold was quiet for a moment. "You know, when Walt sent you to me, I thought it was a waste of time. Another rich kid pretending to care until Daddy bailed him out again. And now I think you might actually make it." Harold looked at him. "The men at the center, some of them are starting to come around. Old Thompson said you cleaned his room better than the professionals. Said you actually talked to him, asked about his service. He was at Quezon. Did you know that?" "I knew. He told me about it. What he saw, what he lost." Tyler shook his head. "I can't imagine surviving something like that. And then coming home to nothing. No parades, no thank yous. Just people spitting on him and calling him names." "Sound familiar?" Tyler laughed bitterly. "Yeah, I guess it does, except I deserved it. He didn't." "Maybe, maybe not." Harold clapped him on the shoulder. "Point is, you're learning, you're listening, you're doing the work. That's all any of us can do. Is it enough? Enough for what? Enough to make up for what I did?" Harold was quiet for a long time. "No," he said finally. "Nothing will ever make up for it. That's not how it works. You can't erase the past. You can't undo the pain you caused." Tyler's face fell. "But you can build something new, something better. You can spend the rest of your life adding good to the world. And if you do that, if you really commit to it, then someday the good might outweigh the bad. Not erase it, but outweigh it. You think that's possible? I think it's the only thing worth trying for." 1 year later, Ethan Henderson turned 8 years old. The party was held in the backyard under the purple tree house that still stood proud against the Montana sky. 47 bikers attended. They roared in at noon engines, thundering leather gleaming. Ethan ran to greet them like they were family. Because they were. "Mr. Reaper, you came. Told you I would, little man. Wouldn't miss it for the world." Reaper handed him a wrapped box. "What is it?" "Open it and see." Ethan tore into the paper. Inside was a leather jacket, child-sized, with his name stitched on the back. "Ethan Henderson, Junior Guardian." His eyes went wide. Is this real?" "Real as it gets. You're official now, buddy, one of us." Ethan threw his arms around Reaper's neck. "Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Easy there, killer. You're crushing my windpipe." But Reaper was grinning. They all were. Walt watched from the porch, Dorothy beside him. "Look at him. I see him. He's going to be okay, isn't he?" "Yeah." Dorothy squeezed his hand. "He is, thanks to you." "It wasn't me. It was all of them. Reaper, the brothers, this whole crazy family we stumbled into." "You stumbled. They caught you." Walt smiled. "Something like that." The party was in full swing when an unexpected guest arrived. Tyler Whitmore walked through the gate carrying a wrapped present. The bikers tensed. Some of them still didn't trust him. Maybe never would, but Reaper held up his hand. "He's okay. Walt vouched for him." "Walt vouched for him, Ma. Last week, said he'd earned it." The bikers exchanged glances, but they stood down. Tyler approached Walt slowly. "Thank you for inviting me. Thank you for coming. I wasn't sure if I should after everything. You've earned your place here, Tyler. Not fully, not forever, but for today." Walt looked at him steadily. You've been at the center every day for a year. You've helped more veterans than I can count. You've taken everything they've thrown at you and kept coming back. It's the least I could do. It's more than most would do. Ethan came running over. Mr. Tyler. You came, Tyler knelt down. Happy birthday, Ethan. Is that for me? It is. Ethan opened the box. Inside was a wooden carving, a butterfly, intricate, beautiful, made by hand. Did you make this? I did. One of the veterans at the center taught me, said it helped him deal with what he saw in the war, keeping his hands busy while his mind healed. Ethan held up the butterfly, watching it catch the light. It's beautiful. It's you, Ethan. You're the butterfly. You're the one who taught me that change was possible. Ethan hugged him. This boy who had every reason to hate, who chose love instead. Thank you, Mr. Tyler. Thank you, Ethan, for everything. As the sun set over the mountains, the party wound down. Bikers said their goodbyes. Families headed home. The backyard emptied until only the Henderson family remained. Walt sat in his favorite chair, Ethan in his lap, Dorothy beside him. The treehouse stood tall against the darkening sky. Grandpa. Yeah, buddy. Tell me the story again. Which story? You know which one. The one about the day the angels came. Walt smiled. He'd told this story 100 times, would tell it 100 more. It started on a day when I thought the world had forgotten what kindness looked like. He told the story, all of it. The parking lot, the attack, the hospital, the bikers, the confession, the forgiveness, the redemption. Ethan listened with rapt attention, even though he knew every word, because some stories aren't just told, they're lived, they're passed down, they become part of who we are. When Walt finished, Ethan was quiet for a long moment. Grandpa, yeah, I want to be like you when I grow up. You don't want to be like me, buddy. I'm old and broken and stubborn. No, Ethan shook his head firmly. You're brave and kind, and you never give up on people, even when they're mean, even when they hurt you. Walt's eyes stung. I want to be brave like the bikers and forgiving like you, and I want to help people who can't help themselves. That's a big goal, soldier. I know. Ethan looked up at him. But you'll teach me, right? You and Grandma and Mr. Reaper and all the angels. Walt pulled his grandson close. Yeah, buddy, we'll teach you. Every day, for as long as we're here. Promise, promise, wow. Dorothy reached over and took Walt's hand. The stars were coming out now, one by one. 1,000,000 points of light against the darkness. Walt? Yeah. Do you remember what you said to me the night you came home from Vietnam? I said a lot of things that night, most of them stupid. You said you didn't think you'd ever feel whole again, that the war had taken something from you that you couldn't get back. Walt was quiet. Do you still feel that way? He thought about it, really thought about it. The attack, the pain, the anger, the forgiveness, the grace, the redemption, the bikers who had come when he needed them, the boy who had taught him what courage looked like, the young man who was learning to be better, the family that surrounded him now in this moment under these stars. No, he said finally, I don't feel that way anymore. What changed everything? He squeezed her hand. Nothing, I don't know, no. Maybe I finally learned that being broken doesn't mean being worthless. Maybe I learned that the cracks are where the light gets in. Dorothy leaned her head on his shoulder. That's beautiful. I stole it from somewhere. Can't remember where. Doesn't matter, it's still true. They sat there in silence, watching the stars. Ethan fell asleep in Walt's arms, the wooden butterfly clutched in his small hands. Inside the house, a photograph hung on the wall. Walt, Dorothy, Ethan, and 47 Hell's Angels all grinning at the camera. Below it, framed in glass, was Ethan's crayon drawing from that first day. The one Reaper had kept. The one that said thank you in wobbly letters. And beside it, a plaque. The same words that had been spoken in the courtroom. The same words that had changed everything. Honor doesn't retire. Brotherhood never ends. Stand for those who can't stand for themselves. Outside, somewhere in the distance, an engine rumbled. Then another. Then another. The sound of the Hell's Angels still riding, still watching, still keeping their promise. We take care of our own. Walt closed his eyes. For the first time in 50 years, he felt at peace. Not because the pain was gone, it would never be gone. Not completely, but because he had learned something that the war had almost stolen from him. How to hope, how to forgive, how to love, and how to believe that even in the darkest moments when everything seems lost, there are still angels among us. They ride motorcycles. They wear leather. They answer when called, and they never ever give up on their brothers. Ethan stirred in his sleep. Grandpa, I'm here, buddy. Are the angels still watching? Walt listened to the distant rumble, the sound that had once meant salvation, that now meant family. Yeah, buddy, they're still watching. Good. Ethan smiled without opening his eyes. Then we're safe. Yeah, soldier, we're safe. The stars wheeled overhead. The mountains stood eternal. And Walter Henderson, a 74 years old veteran grandfather survivor, held his grandson close and knew with absolute certainty that he had finally found his way home. Not to a place, but to a truth. That love is stronger than hate. That grace is more powerful than vengeance. That redemption is possible for anyone willing to do the work. And that as long as there are people willing to stand up for what's right, whether they wear uniforms or leather vests or crayon-stained t-shirts, the darkness will never win. This is not just a story about an old man who was knocked down. This is a story about a community that lifted him up, about a boy who taught grown men what courage means, about a broken young man who found his way to grace, and about the brotherhood that never ends. Because that's what the Hells Angels do. They ride when others run. They stand when others fall. They protect when others look away. And they remind us in every thundering engine and gleaming chrome and outstretched hand of the most important truth of all. No one fights alone. No one heals alone. No one stands alone. We take care of our own, always, forever, until the last engine falls silent, until the last road ends, until the last brother comes home. And even then, the story continues, in the children who remember, in the lessons passed down, in the simple, unbreakable promise that binds one generation to the next. Honor doesn't retire. Brotherhood never ends. Stand for those who can't stand for themselves. The stars faded into dawn. A new day broke over Cedar Ridge, and somewhere on a quiet road the sound of engines rose again. Not ending, never ending, just beginning. If this story moved you, hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. And remember, the angels are always watching. They're always riding, and they're always, always ready to answer the call. Until next time, stay strong, stand together, and never forget brotherhood never ends.